Test. Test. He didn't say how much longer he was going to be, but it's up to you. You don't have to.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order our first committee meeting of Business and Development Services for May 5th, 2025. Committee members present at this time are myself, Mr. Allgood. Mr. Matney has not arrived yet, but we expect him soon. Also, Seth Duncan, City Administrator, Cindy Miller, Municipal Clerk, and the one that keeps us between the buoys. Tries. Yes, thank you. All right. Our second order of business is public comment. A couple of things. I know there are a lot of you here about the ordinance on the agenda tonight. So I would ask a couple of things. One is please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If someone comes up and shares the gist of your comments and you wholeheartedly agree, you can just stand up and say you agree or whatever. And also understand this is not a Q&A. We will listen to the comments. We don't really do back and forth from here. But yeah, so that being said, any public comment we have? Yes, ma'am. We're on our public comment for agenda items. So this would be the time if you have a comment on an agenda item to come forward. When you come up, please state your name and address. You can pull it down.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Pearlie Harris. I live at 117 Meadowwood Drive. I thank you for having us come again today, and I thank you for the time that you're giving us, because it does concern us very, very much. This community was built 50 plus years ago. My husband and I were the first family to buy in this community, and the Davis was the first family to move in. And at that time, it was set up for people who had children. We moved in, we loved it. It was easy in and out. It's been just like it is now, one way in, one way out. But after we'd been there so long, the property was sold. I wasn't aware of it. I don't know if my neighbors were or not. But the sign that was up there was immediately either moved or torn down. But the sign that says Meadowwood does not hold that spot as you go into the neighborhood anymore. I'm deeply concerned about the traffic. We had trouble getting out today. It's in the afternoons and in the mornings. During the midday, it's not as bad, but there's still a lot of traffic on Neely Ferry Road. I'm also concerned about the water that be stagnant. If there is a spot built up there for a swimming pool or a pond, that is not safe for the people that's living there. And all of us are elderly. Most of the people in this neighborhood has been there a long time. And I'm 89 years old, and I'm sorry to see what they plan to do. The traffic on Neely Ferry Road does not let up in the mornings at all. It's children going to school, their parents are taking them to school, and people are going to work, and they're also going down to get on 385. The first rendering of this building that they showed us looked like an old barn. And I am the person that said, I do not want to see this in our community. It's going to be on the side. The people that are living next to it don't want it, and the people that's living in front of it don't want it. The community is resided and it's a residence that was not built for business. Because the little road that takes it into the speech therapist area, it's just a road for a car, one lane. Coming out, they added that. We can't walk on it, so why should they be able to drive on it? That is another thing that concerns me. I'm definitely opposed to this being done, as you can hear and understand. There is more property on Neely Ferry Road and other areas in Mauldin that they could use to put this on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is John Rainey. I live at 103 Wood Green Drive, Mauldin. I'm against this for a number of different reasons. One, the safety. Uh, Having a pond there and there's water standing in there, you're going to have problems with mosquitoes and everything else. But also you're going to have a hazard. And then doing some research and everything else with these retention ponds, they are just as much a danger as anything else. There are too many kids drowning. I mean, for some of us, our kids are grown, but we do have grandkids. Some of us have great grandkids. Kids get out and play. The last thing I would want to hear is that someone didn't do what they're supposed to do and they built something that took the life of a child. Then it's too late to say, well, I'm sorry, I'm this, I'm that. And in doing the research to see the number of kids that have drowned in a retention pond, it worries me. And like I said, we have one road in, one road out in our subdivision. That Meadowwood Drive is the way you go in and the way you go out. There's no other way. And at the road right now we are overcrowded. And to add on to that would be a disservice for the community as well as for anyone in the neighborhood. It's going to be a problem for anyone or anybody, even if for EMS, it would be a problem right now in some cases. Depending on if someone had to have EMS service right now, you would have a hard time getting in and out. That's a 2-lane road, Neely Ferry Road. It's overcrowded as it is. With the building of the new condos down below, it's definitely overcrowded. But this building that they're talking about building, there are other places that could be used and they could do it on. You do not have to bring this into our neighborhood and force this and put this on us. Thank you.
My name is Samuel Neely. I live in Meadowwood. I moved in Meadowwood, my wife and I, in 1976. It was considered one of the good places that I would say to live in that particular time. Mauldin was small, unique and different, and it catered to those persons who lived in the area. Our community basically was a community that looked at us, especially with African Americans trying to find housing, that we were able to move in a place where we could feel comfortable in the city, small city, few thousand folk. And we were excited to move and have our family here. Our children were born here in this area. They went to school, if elementary school, middle school, and graduated from Mauldin. And we are thankful that we were able to move in such an area where we're friends and we were able to work together as a team. It was a low-key area and it's basically for family. And now most of us have gotten older and we're still there. We want to make sure that the safety is still there. And seem like as we move forward in this area, it seemed like it's being requested that we change that low-key into a lot of things that we think as residents not suitable for us who live. Mauldin has been a place that we've seen grow from just a few hundred people thousands of persons. And it seemed to have done an excellent job. But now we are beginning to see emerging upon our own community and determining that we cannot have that peace that we once had because of finance or money. And that is the problem that's hurting all of us as we sit here today. You have a key to many things that need to be said and will be said, but I want to make one or two other statements and I'll take my seat. A neighborhood of history, a neighborhood that has done a lot of good, not only for this particular community, but Mauldin in general and Greenville County as we look forward. My understanding now as we look at what's going on, we have too much traffic already because we live there. We can't get in, we can't get out, and it's a difficult situation for us. The buses come, the buses do not ride in our neighborhood. Our children are let off on the main drag. They have to walk across the street, and usually in that area, we have to look at what needs to be done. So I think that we need to look at what we're doing in that particular area because it's hurting for us to make sure that our children are safe. Secondly, the retaining pond. We already have been ordered to have one in our area, and it's right above the house that I live in. Since that retaining pond has been there, we've had snakes, we had all kind of little crawling animals. Our children had to be safe, and it's a problem for us at this particular time, and it's making things even to be worse. And to put one on the front area, somebody said, well, we're going to beautify it. It's beautified for a while, but as soon as the fall comes, all the leaves, all the flowers are gone, and what was beautified now does not look like what it should be to represent our community. We're asking you to consider us, not the money that's coming into the city at this particular time, because I know most of it is a money effort, but consider us as citizens. We've been here, we paid our taxes, we've done the things that are required, and now we are asking that a business move right into our neighborhood using our own entrance of our neighborhood. Also, we don't know enough about how they're going to protect what's already here. All that we see is the building is coming up. And I'm asking you to review where you are, to reconsider the citizens that live in that particular area, and look to see how we feel that somebody invade our personal space only because they feel that, well, we want to be here at any expense. And it's your personal expense. We're not caring. We're going to build what we're going to build. And I think that if you consider us, you just may change your mind too and say, yes, we don't need that building and all the things that have been tried to be pushed upon us thus far. In my final statements, I would say it this way. Changing the zoning opens it up for a lot of things. The family or the persons, the business persons that are going to want to build, if they decide later after everything has changed, we're in a turmoil. How do we undo what has been done for our community? Please consider us as you make your decision.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else?
Hello, council members. Thank you. My name is Michael Yanover, 105 Meadowwood. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. Like Mr. Neely said prior, and I just wanted to reiterate, I had been here several weeks ago and had mentioned also about the impact on the community and to try to seriously consider and think about the impact on the communities as zoning changes are made and the comprehensive plans are made. But I wanted to just strongly reiterate that the impact and how much we are opposed, or I am opposed, speaking for myself, the revision of this to C2 in our neighborhood, especially with the entrance onto Meadowwood. One impact that I have, in addition to what's on the petition, what's been spoken at the previous meetings, what's already been spoken about with Mr. Neely and other people, is a domino effect. I'm asking to hold the line, so to speak. there is C2 on New Neely Ferry, but there's not C2 right embedded in our neighborhood. It is OD. That's why we're so opposed to it, is because it's not about this swim school. And I'm in agreement complete with, we don't know what their hours could be. We don't know what the impact could be, but I even admitted in the last meeting, in the planning commission meeting, that they very well may be less impactful than some ODs. But what I'm asking everybody to continue to remember and consider is that once this flips to C2, if they don't build, it's nothing against them, or, you know, not asking for promises. If things fall south, they do build, go out of business, sell, change, we're left with the impact of a C2 business. That could be, and I think it'll get shown in Mr. Deerhog's presentation, but there could be numerous businesses that would be extremely impactful to us. In general, I don't know what the requirements are, but in general, I would guess that OD businesses, just by their nature, operate on a normal 8 or 9 to 5 or 6 schedule. Nothing probably stopping them from operating outside of those. But once you go to C2, I would imagine that, again, can't specifically say what someone's operating hours are, but you would bet that some C2 businesses are going to operate later than that. So once we open the door to C2, the impact on the neighborhood becomes extremely great. Lights, noise, traffic, and you all may not be in these positions. I don't know what the time limits are, or planning commissions. So future planning commissions, future committees, future councils, if one of these spots in this 10-acre big tract in between Pinehurst and Meadowood goes to C2, and an unfavorable or impactful to us business goes in there, and another one wants to sell and flip to C2, I don't know what that would be, but I believe in the worry about precedents, and that commissions and committees that are talking about it will then be saying, well, there's one right next door that is C2. So I ask that any motion that comes up this evening, that it absolutely mentions that it should not convert to C2, and that we hold this property as OD for the benefit of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Anyone else?
James Kennedy. I'm a former council member, and I live in that neighborhood also, 123 Meadowood Drive. I was here to be in opposition of this issue, and I have also scrutinized most of the complaints, and they are legitimate. I have looked at the infrastructure of in and out of the highway, and it's going to be a big traffic display. It's already that way now. But what irks me was that they had said that they would be a one-way in and a one-way out. And that's not too pleasurable to me. You need to have more assets to that community. And also, you have to look at the safety features of that community. People are saying that they would have less traffic, but that's not true, because I have experienced the traffic that we already have, and it's going to get worse. And I'm just opposed to it, in opposition. Also, you have to look at the aesthetics of the building that they're going to build. It's not compatible with the neighborhood, and we don't want that in our neighborhood. I won't reiterate some of the things that some people have already said, and that's my stand. Thank you.
Lisa Childs, live at 110 Longfield Drive. The request of rezoning the Meadowwood community from OD to C2 will negatively impact the community. The construction of a new business is our primary concern. More than likely, construction will take place in the early mornings. Our daily commute from home to work and vice versa will be disturbed by the commotion of construction vehicles and trucks. In 2021, the South Carolina Traffic Collision Fact Book found that one traffic collision happens every 3.6 minutes. One fatal collision occurs every 7.9 hours. One child under 8 is seriously injured or killed every 4.9 days. There are several characteristics that cause traffic collisions, such as the driver, time of day, the location, and the environment. Greenville is growing more every year, and Mauldin is certainly growing as well. This rezoning will not only make us feel helpless, but more vulnerable. The Mauldin traffic calming program will seem as if it doesn't serve its purpose for the Meadowwood community. I have no doubt that Swimming Lessons with Mary will continue to be a successful business. However, we believe that it will be able to thrive in another location that is traffic suitable for everyone. And I ask again to please reconsider your decision for this proposed project. Thank you for your time.
What else? All right.
Good evening, Jocelyn Nix of 113 Wood Green Drive. I know the last time we were here, one of the concerns dealt with the aesthetics of the property, where it was barn-like, had the appearance of a barn-like appearance, even though the owner of the property said they hadn't decided on, but they had shown us a picture previously of what they had proposed to put up there. So that's one item. There was also mention of one-on-one lessons, which wouldn't impose a traffic issue, but is that one-on-one individually? Is it one-on-one with multiple instructors at the same time? We don't have any of those logistics made known to us. And there was also put on in the meeting by this young man here, wasn't you? Well, okay, something about rezoning with modifications. Well, we don't need a modification. If it's going to be rezoned, why should it have to be a modification? That just leaves it open for other stuff if we're going to play and toy around with zoning and how things are to be zoned. So either it's going to stay at the D, OD, or move to C. And we are proposing against the move to the commercial district. I just wanted to add that in addition to what's been stated.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. I think we should, for the record, make note that you were referred to as a young man, Seth.
Don't let the bald head between me and David.
All
First
right.
time.
Also that Mr. Matt, Mr. Matney arrived.
Matt, I would also like to make note for the record that Mr. Matney has joined us. We're glad to have him here. Next item on the agenda is reading and approval of minutes.
Motion to approve as submitted.
Motion to have a second.
Second.
Are there any, hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, none. Moving on. Next is reports and communications from city officers. Mr. Deerhog.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and council members. And just want to set straight for the record that Mr. Duncan, I believe, is younger than me. So that is an astute comment to refer to him as a young man.
Has nothing to do with the fact he's your boss, does it?
So there has been a busy month in our office this past month. As you're probably aware, the business renewal deadline was April 30th. So as is the custom for most every year, the majority of business owners come in or send in their renewals for their licenses during the month of April. And I'm proud to say that we had more businesses renew their license by the deadline this year than we have in previous years. We had 848 businesses renew their licenses this year by the deadline. Last year, that was 718, so that was quite a marked improvement over last year. We also issued 494 residential permits this last month. We had 102 permits for new homes that led the way, and that's the most residential permits that we've issued in a single month since August 2023. So it was truly busy. Just also want to update you a couple of commercial projects that we issued permits for. The revised building plans for the pickle yard, those plans were approved and that permit was issued, as well as the stage cover for the Mauldin Amphitheater, which I'm sure you've seen taking shape on the other side of the railroad tracks there. But that's our, let me also report on too that we had the last phase of Hidden Lake Estates over on Ashmore Bridge Road has started up. That last phase will include 53 homes being built by Adams Homes. They are advertising the homes in that last phase starting in the high 300s to middle 400,000s. And then home construction is set to begin here real soon in the Tessa community, which is located on Highway 417 at 385. This is a rental community formerly known as Ava. They had to rename the project over some infringements, so it's now known as Tessa. But that community will include luxury single-family homes and townhomes. And that's the report that I have for you tonight.
Thanks, sir. Any questions? All right, no questions. All right, unfinished business, none. Don't go too far, Mr. Deerhog. We're on to new business.
I almost wandered off. All right, so thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. So the item for new business we have tonight is a request to rezone a tract of land that is located at the intersection of New Neely Ferry Road and Meadowwood Drive. It includes a 1.45 acre portion of that tract. And as you've heard tonight, the request is to rezone that from the OD district to the C2 district. The intent of the applicant is to develop that property for an indoor swim school that will provide one-on-one swim instructions. The applicant has indicated she expects their hours of operations to be roughly 2 to 7 p.m. on Monday through Friday, and then 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday. The lessons that her team will provide will be for 30 minutes typically. She plans to have a team that will be able to run about 5 separate one-on-one lessons for each 30-minute session when the business first starts out. Over time, she expects that the business and her team may grow to providing up to 10 separate one-on-one lessons each 30-minute session. The applicants worked with Seaman Whiteside to prepare a preliminary layout for how that site might be developed, and that was included in your packets. The applicant held a neighborhood meeting in accordance with the city's requirements. That was held back in February at the Messiah Lutheran Church, and it was advertised in accordance with the city requirements. There were at least 23 neighbors who signed in as attending that meeting, but it appeared there were several more who were in attendance that night, and they voiced some concerns similar to which we've heard here tonight. So I want to just talk about what the staff has kind of found in regards to this request that you're reviewing tonight. Talking about the proposed use and how it relates to the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan designates the area of this property with a large asterisk, which represents a neighborhood center. And in that plan, a neighborhood center is described as consisting of office and light commercial uses that should be limited to no more than 20,000 square feet in size. That plan lists appropriate examples such as a small restaurant, coffee shop, convenience store without gasoline sales, bookstore, bakery, professional offices. And as far as the use that we're talking about that this request is for, appears to be consistent with those types of uses that are designated in that neighborhood center. However, that designation really is more aligned with the C1 zoning rather than the C2 zoning. But you've probably seen in my report how I talked about spot zoning. And so the reason we have not entertained a C1 zone for this property here tonight is because it's under 2 acres and it would represent a spot zone, which is frowned upon in the state court system. But as far as the site itself, there aren't any there aren't any floodplains, wetlands, or any steep topography on the site, so it's a suitable site for development. The proposed use, size, and the operations of this indoor swim school appears to be consistent with the level of intensity of other uses that are typically allowed in the OD district. In fact, I know we've heard a lot of comments about traffic. When we compare the traffic that this use will generate to other uses that are already allowed in the OD district, this one comes up favorably, especially as you compare it to banks, daycares, small office buildings, small libraries, all things that are commonly allowed in the OD district. And so you'll see on page 5 of my report, kind of the breakdown or the comparison I give you of the peak hour trips that each of those would generate. And this proposed swim school comes in under those. But staff recognizes there are some aspects of how the site is being designed that the neighborhood residents consider to be incompatible with their neighborhood. This includes comments we've heard tonight about driveway location, stormwater pond location, and the aesthetic from Meadowood Drive. And these concerns may be less about the rezoning of the property, more about the general development of the site. Certainly a business that's currently allowed in the OD district would be able to develop this site with an identical layout as what you see in your packets. The greater concern appears to be that if this property is rezoned and either this project does not move forward or this business eventually closes, then what other types of businesses would the C2 district allow to be established at this property? What would be the impact of some other businesses on the surrounding community? A different business allowed by the C2 zoning could possibly impact the neighboring community differently in terms of traffic congestion, aesthetics, noise, and other effects. I gave you an example of how this particular use stacks up in traffic or in terms of a traffic generation. But as you look at some of the other uses allowed in the C2, obviously they would generate different rates of traffic. All the utilities, including water and sewer, are available on the site. And then the last item I want to talk about is the public need. There are several statistics that suggest that providing swimming instructions is an important service in the community. According to the Centers for Disease Control, drowning is the single leading cause of death for children ages 1 through 4. Drowning is the second leading cause of unintentional injury death in children ages 5 through 14, which follows motor vehicle crashes. Drowning is the third leading cause of injury death for ages 15 through 24. And actually, drowning still remains in the top 4 causes of unintentional deaths up until age 55. I did a quick internet search to show that there are 3 swim schools located in the city of Greenville and 1 in Five Forks. I've listed those on page 6 in your report. There don't appear to be any swim schools currently in Mauldin. However, there are swimming lessons provided at the YMCA. And additionally, there are some other organizations like Nemo Swim School that go to community pools like in Laurel Meadows and Highland Chase. This proposal represents a potentially more convenient opportunity to attend a swim school in Mauldin. But additionally, this business actually provides a unique opportunity for one-on-one instructions rather than in group settings, which is typically the format that is provided in most of these other venues that I've listed. But of course, the more debatable aspect of this criteria is there a need at this location for other types of businesses that could be allowed by the C2 zoning? Perhaps there are some other types of businesses that could be appropriate at this property and would provide convenient services for the community, but we've largely heard the residents of the community state that they feel a commercial business is not appropriate nor needed at this property. We had a public hearing for this on April 22nd with the Planning Commission, and notice was provided in accordance with the city's requirements for that hearing. And I provided a summary of for you of the public comments we heard, but we heard many of the same things tonight. But I did want to highlight and reference that in addition to some individual comments, that the neighborhood also submitted a petition signed by 65 residents of the Meadowwood community. And while the petition has no bearing on the process, this petition was read into the public hearing as a reflection of the community's opposition to the proposal. The petition cited concerns about the effect on the character and aesthetic of the neighborhood, traffic congestion and safety, property value depreciation, environmental concerns, and the validity of the public need. And you have a copy of that petition in your packets if you want to refer to the wording in that petition and the list of residents that signed it. One more thing I want to make you aware of is that we do have an ordinance that provides or states that if owners of at least 20% of the properties within 100 feet of a rezoning make a written request, a written protest, then approval of the zoning will require a favorable vote of at least 5 of the 7 members of council. And so that you are aware, the city has received a formal written protest signed by the owners of 3 properties within 100 feet of the rezoning. These properties represent 33% of those properties within 100 feet. So if this is forwarded on to city council, it will require the affirmative vote of at least 5 members of the 7 on council. Planning Commission at their meeting after hearing the public comments and deliberating and discussing this amongst themselves, voted 5-1 to recommend denial of the rezoning with Mr. Paulson dissenting. They indicated the reason for this recommendation was due to lack of information regarding the design of the building and other site details. And again, because it comes to the city council with a recommendation of denial, similarly as what I just read to you, it will also require a favorable vote of at least 5 of the 7 members of council for it to be passed. During their deliberations, some of the members of the Planning Commission did comment that they support the alternative that was introduced by staff to amend the OD district to this type of business, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But the staff's recommendation is as follows. The proposed use, size, and operations of this proposed indoor swim school appears to be consistent with the level of intensity of other uses that are already allowed in the OD district. Staff finds actually this business will likely be less impactful than other common uses that are currently allowed in the OD district. So staff supports the use that's being proposed, but we also recognize the angst about what other businesses could be allowed on this property if it were rezoned to C2. So staff recommends an alternative solution. Rather than rezone the property, keep the property as OD, and you could consider amending the OD district to allow this type of business, either by right or as a conditional use subject to additional standards. Such additional standards could include a maximum size of the building, landscaping and screening standards along the neighborhood streets, and possibly even restrictions on driveway location. We have to be careful, though, that any standards that are part of this cannot be arbitrary or capricious. But this alternative approach would require the drafting of a text amendment to the zoning ordinance and a public hearing for that text amendment. If this alternative approach is preferred, the committee could either hold this rezoning in committee, or the applicant could ask the applicant if they wish to withdraw their application for the rezoning, and the committee could direct staff to work on drafting such an ordinance and give us instruction if you would prefer that after staff's drafted the ordinance, if you would prefer that to go next to the Planning Commission or to come back to this committee for review first. But that's the report and introduction that staff has for this item. Be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Deerhog. Questions?
I have some questions. Sure. Um, well, gotta go back to my notes. So Several of the folks that came up here and spoke mentioned of a old barn. Can you elaborate in terms of what we're talking about in terms of an old barn?
Yeah, so I've at the neighborhood meeting that was in February, they brought some materials to kind of show what they had in mind, and included both the site layout that you have in your packet, as well as a rendering of what they might be considering for the building. I only saw the rendering from afar, so I can't speak to the detail of what was shown. But it did appear to me from the back of the room where I was standing that it probably doesn't meet our design standard requirements. We do have some fairly strict design standard requirements that address the type of siding that you can use, the amount of doorways and windows that you're required to have, the design of the roof, how the facade is designed. And so, right off the bat, I saw that, okay, well, we're going to require a brick facade in that neighborhood. So it didn't have that. All this to say that that rendering may be moot because it won't meet our design requirements. I will expect that the applicant will have to work with an architect on producing something that will meet our requirements. Where we're at in the stage of this process, we don't generally require the applicants for a rezoning to have to produce architectural plans. It's kind of an unnecessary expense at this stage. And so I know that was kind of some of the comments that were provided by the planning commission members, but in all fairness, that's not really anything that we require to be submitted yet at this time for rezoning. But all that to say, I expect that it will not look at like what was shown at the neighborhood meeting because that doesn't meet our design requirements.
Thank you. And with the layout of the facility, several of the comments, including what was listed previously in the packet, talks a lot about one road in, one road out, and then going into this road. So is that the only option that this type of development could possibly do, or is there other options?
It does get tricky with this being along New Neely Ferry Road, which is a DOT roadway. So they're kind of at the mercy of what DOT will allow them. What I expect DOT is going to say is DOT is going to say, we don't want any new curb cuts on New Neely Ferry Road. We want you to put the driveway on Meadowwood Drive. And we know that we've heard from the community that they don't want that. And so there's still some conversation that's going to be had to have there with DOT. There is a small driveway that exists. You heard it commented on tonight that runs along this, comes off of New Neely Ferry Road and runs along the side of the property. It would obviously have to be widened and improved to be a driveway for this business. We would like to put some pressure on DOT to consider allowing them to use that for access. DOT is probably going to come back and tell us it's too close to the church's driveway. So we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations about that and how that works. But the owner who has the upstate pediatric speech therapy building behind this property has commented that they might be willing to take a look and see if there's an opportunity to share their driveway. Again, there's different scenarios maybe still to be worked out through there, but we've heard loud and clear the neighborhood doesn't want it on Meadowwood Drive. We're ready to work with the applicant to try to find out if we can figure out an alternative solution for that, but there's still some conversations, particularly with DOT, that need to be had for that.
And then let's go scroll back through. Expand it for me a little bit more about spot zoning, because you mentioned that C2 would be more restrictive, but that falls in line with the spot zoning. So it deals with acreage of over two acres. This is under 2 acres, which is why we're looking at C1. Is it the other way around?
So the Supreme Court of South Carolina has invalidated what they've termed spot zoning, wherein a single small parcel of land is zoned totally different from the surrounding area. Most jurisdictions have used a threshold of 2 acres as to if it's under 2 acres, then they count that as potentially qualifying as spot zoning. And so that's the very simple explanation to that and what it is. And yeah, as you've heard me stated, and maybe not ideally, I say ideally, we might be talking about C1 instead tonight, but because there's no C1 right there, and this property is under 2 acres, this could be challenged, or that action could be challenged in court and be found to be invalid because it meets that criteria of spot zoning. So that's why this has not been brought to you tonight as a request for C1.
Thank you. And I've got one more question, and then I'll turn it back over. Ms. Nix, who came up and spoke earlier, she didn't speak on this matter, but she had mentioned it in her statements at the public hearing, calling the current driveway, of course, I understand it's subjective, the comments of the deficiencies of the current driveway on New Neely Ferry Road. Are you aware of any particular deficiencies, or is it just we got potholes?
No, we're talking about what I referred to just a moment ago, the driveway off of New Neely Ferry Road, right to the side of
Twisting
this.
up that too, New
I
Neely
know,
Ferry
right?
Road.
It's just like a single car, not even well paved driveway. So it'd have to be redone. Have to be widened so that it could have 2 passing cars, meet our minimum widths for that, and be resurfaced. But I think that's what we're talking about.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Not having a background in zoning and city planning, what is the purpose of OD zoning?
Bear with me. I'm going to open up my ordinance so I can actually just speak from it. There we go. So in our ordinance, it says this about the OD district. This district is established to provide an office district for the convenience of local residents. The uses permitted in this district are limited to office and research facilities and shall not include any use engaged in retail sales or the stocking and storage of goods or merchandise. No use shall be permitted in this district, which will be detrimental to the development of the district as an office research park. That description is a little bit more narrow than how we actually treat the allowed uses in that district. When you look at, and it's on page 3 of your report, but you look at the uses that we allow in this district, there's a fair range of uses that we allow there, including child daycare, adult daycare, libraries, meeting and assembly halls, public safety facilities, churches, social assistance services, even catering services, and then a whole list of different types of professional offices, communication and information services, banks, parks, and even allow grade schools by special exception. So that's what I read to you. The description is kind of fairly narrowly focused, but when you look at the uses there, it kind of broadens up a little bit too.
Next question, in the staff recommendations, it says furthermore, staff finds that this business will likely be less impactful than other common uses. What is, I know you've talked about traffic. Is that really what we're talking about? Is simply just traffic count?
When we're looking at kind of the operations of this business and comparing them to other types of businesses that are allowed in OD district, that's what we're talking about, primarily traffic. Some of the other things you've heard tonight about aesthetics, driveway location. This isn't going to be any different than another use or another business that we might allow in the OD district. So I'm not saying that this will be different in terms of how it's going to look or where the driveway will be or where the stormwater pond will be. That's not really, that doesn't really change with what the zoning district is. So it's probably primarily traffic when I'm talking about some of those impacts. Now, there could be some other uses there, like maybe a daycare that has an outdoor playground that could generate more noise than what this use would be, because this is an indoor facility. A daycare has some operations that are outdoors. So you could also look at it that way and see that there may be some other impacts that other businesses could have that this one won't. Outdoor playground at a daycare being an example of that.
You're saying children are allowed.
My children are.
Mine are too. You had one more?
Yes, I did have one more. Going through this process between the public hearing and then going before the planning commission, has the applicant made any changes or made any suggested changes that they would make to their property?
I will invite them to stand up and speak if they wish to correct anything I say, but they have heard some of the comments made and have said they are some things that maybe they could work on addressing in light of the comments, but we haven't really gotten to the level of site planning because that's just not the stage where we're at with this right now.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Anything I'd missed on that? If you have something, come say it up here.
Nick Myers, civil engineering firm, Seaman Whiteside. We're at 701 Easley Bridge Road in Greenville. David covered just about everything. The driveway location is going to be dictated by DOT, and driveway spacing is going to require it to be essentially where it's currently shown. I'd say the only real, and then the pond, of course, I've heard the concerns about that. It will be fully fenced per regulations, no larger than it has to be. But again, it's in the low area of the site, so it's kind of physically has to be where it is. I would say the one thing we can be flexible on is enhanced buffering. There's a decent amount of space on the site around the building and parking areas. So there could be some enhanced landscape buffering, potentially privacy fencing, things of that nature to help, provide more separation between this and the surrounding residences. But as far as the site itself, the physical nature of the site and the surrounding street network is kind of limiting options there.
So if I understand correctly, we have a couple options. Or do I need to get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, all I was going to ask is David, could you explain if rezoning fails, how long the property owner is prevented from rezoning or submitting another rezoning request?
I want to make sure I tell you correctly, so let me look it up. If this goes through to council and the council votes to deny the request for the rezoning, then it cannot be considered to be rezoned to the same classification on that same property for a period of at least 1 year.
Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time, because I have some concerns about the C2 piece, and I certainly understand where the neighborhood is coming from and thinking about future use as other parcels continue to be developed, and with this currently being OD. At the appropriate time, and we can discuss it whenever, I would move that we hold this in committee and that we would also, as a part of that motion, direct staff to draft the text amendment to create a carve-out for this type of business in OD, where we're not completely upsetting the apple cart, and to include design standards that go along with that.
Is that an actual motion or was that a?
If you're ready for me to make the motion, then yes, that is an actual motion.
Yes,
If you
sir.
want to hold off for a minute, then I certainly can.
I mean, holding off, I think the only reason to hold off at this point is I think the other option was to, if the applicant wanted to pull the application, would this be the appropriate time to do that?
I think that's probably a conversation the applicant would have with staff outside of the meeting situation. So with that being the case, I go ahead and offer that as a motion now.
There you go. I have a motion.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you. The biggest thing here is I'm okay welcoming it, keeping it in committee and looking at the alternatives. However, I will make note that we have a planning commission for a reason. If they voted 5-1, and we have a very strong community who went so far as to go the extra mile and get those signatures. We had a similar, not similar, we had a similar property that was looking to build and of course looking to rezone. And when I say similar in terms of, let's call it an athletic facility. Okay. And we as a committee decided to deny that one. And that was probably with even less community involvement. So I feel very strongly that we've got a great committee here, community here that voiced tonight. I'm certainly still open to options. Don't want to completely shoot it in the ground, but one of the gentlemen that came up and mentioned we have a comprehensive plan. We have a comprehensive plan for a reason. We need to continue to, we've talked about this in terms of getting the new comprehensive plan going. So we have to realize that there was a reason why it was zoned what it was zoned. And we just got to make sure that we're following that. So that's just my final comment on it. And I'm happy to keep this in committee.
Any other discussion? Motion.
Just a question. This question could be either answered right now or after you vote, but the question that staff will have is, would you like this to come, when we draft a text amendment, for it to come next to the committee, or would you prefer to go first to the planning commission? Basically, who would you prefer it go to first?
Mr. Chairman, if I could go ahead and amend my motion, that when staff returns with the text amendment, that it comes back to the committee, this committee.
Still good with that?
Second.
No more discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, like sign? Hearing none. We got that covered. All right. We're on to our second public comment. And good there. Committee concerns. Oh. Yes, sir.
Again, I'm John Rainey, 103 Wood Green Drive, Mauldin. In response to some of what I've heard here recently, after I spoke, if I understood it, they said they're gonna have 5 sessions. Each session takes 30 minutes. So that means each person is going to be doing 2 sessions per hour. Most businesses operate 8 hours a day. So if you're doing that, that's 10 cars every hour. That's 80 cars every day. It's being filtered into our neighborhood out there. We can't get out there. This is going to be a problem. And also they mentioned that you could put a daycare. There's a daycare right across the street from the property where they're already talking about right now. Also across the street, there's another piece of property which they said was too expensive, but it's also already zoned C2. They could have went right across the street from the subdivision, bought that property and built on it. So I'm looking at this, they say it minimum traffic. Excuse me for calling you by your first name, but David said himself, he avoids Neely Ferry Road sometime because of the traffic. We got traffic coming in off Adam Mills Road, coming through the neighborhoods there on Pinehurst and everywhere else because they can't get through. And when all that traffic filters in down there, the traffic on New Neely Ferry Road backs up. It backs up all the way to our neighborhood. And I've sit there one day for 30 minutes and I moved one car lane. I eventually turned around and went out the back way. So adding 80 cars over there onto an already busy road, a 2-lane road, that's going to be impossible for anybody to survive. And I wouldn't wish that upon anyone else, and I truly hope no one would wish that upon us. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Samuel Neely, 127 Wood Green Drive there in Mauldin in the Meadowwood subdivision. One or two things as I listen, one is the retaining pond. That sounds reasonable, but a whole lot of things come with that. We have one already, that the city has already ordered in our area, down in the lower part of our subdivision. And when it rains right now, we can't even see our grass. I mean, it floods in that area. And that's been going on for a while. Also with I've killed so many snakes, as soon as this weather changes, we'll see it again. Because of that pond that has been ordered and placed there because of our city. We're asking that, consider that as we try to move it up further. Secondly, Meadowwood is a subdivision that seems the water comes off of the Neely Ferry down into our neighborhood. And there's just water everywhere. And to now try to build something to hold up some water, which is going to wind up in the same situation as the one that we've already have that you've asked to be placed in our area. It is a problem when it comes to water in our neighborhood, especially those of us who live on the Wood Green side. Down as you come in Meadowwood to Wood Green and that circle that goes all the way around, it is filled with problems when water comes. Heavy waters, we have problems. No grass can be seen in our yards. And then all the other things that come after that. We have mentioned that to the city before. And they, when I said mentioned it before, the leadership, and it was told to us that y'all can't do anything about it because it's not your responsibility, but you're getting ready to add some more to what's already there. And it's a problem for us right now. And then finally, I wanted to make sure that we understand it is not that we are so much against anything. It's just that we have a community is being invaded to change from where we are to what they want us to be. And we are not welcoming that. We are having struggles with that. We don't understand why it's being forced. And if for some reason this particular business open, we understand from our history of looking at the business, it has moved several times, 2, 3, or 4 times. If it is ranked or moved into another area that you desire, then we're stuck now with what comes in after that. So you're opening doors that we are afraid that we cannot accept even more. So please consider us. We're still taxpayers too. Consider us as we move forward.
Thank you. All right. Committee concerns? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing that I did hear was an issue with stormwater currently, and that has absolutely nothing to do with the project that we considered earlier. With the work that Public Works Committee has been doing on stormwater, and I know that Mr. Kraling, chairman of that committee, is sitting on the front row tonight. Would ask Mr. Kraling if potentially y'all could add that to the stormwater project list, or at least take a look at it and see how that fits with the work that we're doing on stormwater. Y'all have done a tremendous job on that, and would Thank you, sir.
All right. None? All right. No other concerns. What I hear in adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor or discussion? Sorry, none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We are adjourned.
Up next is finance and policy. Finance.
Thank you. If
I'm getting my readers out tonight, Cindy. My readers. Hey, Mr. Pulley. Oh, we're going to start our second committee meeting. You're welcome to stay as the Finance Committee. Okay, it's 7:06 and I'm starting the Finance Committee. If you are exiting, please exit quietly so we can continue our business. Okay, at 7:06, present tonight is myself, Carol King, chairing the committee in Michael Reynolds' absence. And with me is Mr. Matney and our respective department heads. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any comments for the Finance Committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to the reading and approval of the minutes from February the 3rd. What is committee's pleasure?
Move to approve as submitted.
Motion to approve. I will second that motion. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from February the 3rd, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Motion carries 2-0. Next, we'll bring up the reports from our city officers. Mr. Duncan, our city administrator, is first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, just two quick items. So first off, want to say the following employees were recognized last month during our annual employee appreciation and service program. So those who have achieved 5 years of service include John Bradley, Curtis Broughton, Taylor Burbage, Riley Embry, Dan Fazio, Paul Fazio, Dexter Ferguson, Matthew Fleeman, the one and only, Timothy Martin, Tanner Matheson, Ari Mosier, Harley Sefcek, Gerald Smith, and Barry Strong. Those who we honored with 10 years of service include Christian Hodrea, Josh Rogers, Sean Smith, and Todd Wise. 15 years of service, Jennifer Harris and Emmanuel Hodrea, or Captain Hodrea. 20 years, Deborah Daniel and Charles Osborne, and 35 years of service, just like by so fast. Carl Banks and the one and only Bart Cumberlander. So congratulations to them. Also, just want to keep everyone posted as far as our FEMA reimbursements go. We've previously submitted for category B, storm-related expenses, in the amount of just under $53,000. Those expenses were incurred during the immediate aftermath of the storm. Staff is also finalizing submission for reimbursement of Category A expenses or those associated cost with the storm debris pickup. All information has been submitted to FEMA for their initial review. Once FEMA signs off on that initial review, we then hit the final submit button for the package, and it goes through the grants portal, and then it goes through another 10 layers of review. But we are submitting for Cat A over just under $1 million in reimbursement for cleanup work, and all totaled will be about $1,050,000 to be reimbursed for eligible expenses, and we hope to have these funds back by the end of the year. That's my report.
Excellent. Congratulations to everyone who were awarded service awards. Matthew, I swear, I think you've been here more than 5 years. I think we missed something. That's a compliment, but I was like, only 5 years? Do you second that, Mayor? Yeah. All right, Ms. Abercrombie, you're up next. Budget review.
We have a budget review.
That's what it says.
Everything, everything looks good. There's nothing that I really need to report on, unless you have any specific questions. But everything looks good as we stand right now.
All right, heading into the final month. Thank you. Mr. Putman, our HR Director.
Good evening, committee. Wanted to start off by letting you know that we are continuing a monthly HR lunch and learn with our supervisors and above, so that we go over some policies, go over some new things that are happening in the workforce, and trying to keep our our supervisory group up to date. Also, this year, this fiscal year, we are noticing a significant spike in usage in our healthcare. So that is a rise in cost. And I just wanted to give you a quick kind of high level data overview of why we see that this is being what's driving this cost. Number one, the city's growing, and we have over the last few years initiated some new, especially new positions that's adding to our workforce. And we are no longer really having a lot of open positions. We're pretty much right on line where we need to be. But just to give you, for instance, in July of 23, we had 168 employees enrolled in our benefits. In July of 24, we had 181. So that's a significant jump. In September, we had 189 employees, that are enrolled in it. We are currently at 185. I just checked that before we came in. So however you look at it, that's a 17 jump in just, if that was just single employee benefits, but it's not. All of our dependent categories have risen also. And we all know that single coverage is one thing, but when you step up to the dependent coverage, it raises the price significantly to the city in terms of fees and also claims that you could have out there. Our employee and spouse coverage is up 5.2%. Employee and child is up 6.3%. And our family coverage is up 1.3. And I know that doesn't sound a lot, but family coverage is a significant increase for the city as far as fees and everything. Those numbers also drive our fees for Proactive MD, because we pay for every person that is on our benefits. So we pay a fee monthly for those. Our claims are up. One thing that I will tell you, we have had 3 major cases of claims this year, 3 of them that were very significant. They're all right now probably in the neighborhood of altogether around over $200,000 for the city, and one will be climbing just a little bit. Now we have the gap insurance, but we've got to get there. So pharmaceuticals, they are up 31% from this year from last year. A lot of that is driven from those 3 claims that we talk about, because when you've got certain illnesses, there are some expensive drugs that are pharmaceuticals that you've got to have. So that is up this year. We've also seen an increase of what I like to call the designer drugs. That's the ones that you see on TV. Those are very expensive. They can be anywhere from $2,500 a month to $10,000 a month. And right now we've got claims on a number of those that are totaling so far this year $54,000. I do expect those to go up to around 60 or 65,000 by the end of this fiscal year. So we're seeing a lot of that. We've, we're taking a look at what we see coming up as far as any surgeries or anything that we're going to see by the end of the fiscal year. That's one good thing. Employees are really good to come and talk to us about it before we get started. So we've got some vision on that, but we do expect us to run a little bit into the negative this year, but we've had some good years in the past. And so sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. So that's my report there.
Thank you. A lot of that you just can't control.
Well, yeah, you can't. We try to keep our employees as healthy as possible, try to get them at the right doctors that that help us save some money. And our employees are really good at doing that, but still we've had some this year that they've just been expensive claims.
Thank you for that update. Any questions? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to unfinished business, which we have none. New business tonight, we have 2 ordinances on first reading.
We're going to have Miss Amber Crombie walk us through the first one. I'll
Okay.
walk us through the second one.
Excellent.
Right. So the first one you have before you is our yearly ordinance for our budget amendments for the fiscal year 25 budget. And basically, as you know, every year we keep a running total of all the items that have been brought before council and approved. And we do a one-time budget amendment on it. What you have before you is all of ours this year, which is not a lot of them, but it's just big dollar values. And they basically revolve around state money that came for several different projects. And then Hurricane Helene response, which you just heard Mr. Duncan talking about how we've hoped to get that money returned, but it's probably not going to happen in this fiscal year. So anyway, but that's the stuff. And then some property acquisitions, and then the stage cover that you see going up, and you've probably seen over there at the Cultural Center, and then just the continuation of our comprehensive plan. And all those total a little over $7 million. And we are bringing it to you forward to full council for approval. If you have any specific questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Holly, the only thing I have, it is like 7.3 million, but there's revenues that offset that, right? So the,
Oh, yes.
the
yes.
net.
The 7.3 is total. Most of it is revenues.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're looking at like 726,000
Yeah.
change,
Yes.
just for the record and clarification.
You are correct.
Thank you. My old skills in this spot's coming back, I guess. All right, what do I hear from committee?
Move that we forward with a recommendation for approval and ordinance to amend appropriations for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025 for ordinary and other city purposes, to provide for a levy of taxes on all taxable property in the city of Mauldin for all city purposes, including sufficient tax for any principal and interest on outstanding indebtedness maturing in the fiscal year, to provide for the expenditure of said taxes and other revenues coming to the city during the fiscal year.
Excellent. I'll second that motion on first reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of forwarding the FY25 budget amendment ordinance on first reading to full council, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion, no further discussion. Motion carries 2-0. Got ahead of myself. All right, next up, we have Mr. Duncan to go over our current FY26 budget ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just as a programming note, both both ordinances will have a public hearing at our May 19th meeting. Just wanted to make note of that. So I'm excited to kind of walk through high level the work and effort that has been going on with council and staff since January. And that has culminated into the FY 25-26 budget as drafted, which stands at a total of $43,128,100 in expenditures and in revenue. The FY26 budget is approximately 9% more than FY25, the FY25 original budget. Due to strong revenue growth and economic development activities related to tourism-related activity and enhanced revenue collection by staff. The budget includes several strategic investments designed to address council's goals, including additional personnel, equipment, and capital. These investments have been described throughout our process, but we're doing it all without a tax millage increase. And so there's no proposed tax millage increase and no change to the business license rates either or contractor fees in this upcoming budget. There is a minor fee increase on the sewer rate for 25 cents to offset the increase in the billing price that we were getting from Greenville Water that we got last year. And so we're kind of catching that back up. So with that said, the other thing I wanted to note was that overall, we still are looking at very good revenue growth in the future, though we are tempering that with kind of the state of the economy right now and keeping an eye on what's going on, how that nationally or globally would affect us here locally. And so the way that we've set this budget up is to not kind of spend all of the revenue at the very beginning of the fiscal year because we actually don't get our bulk of our revenue until midpoint to later on in the fiscal year. But with that said, we continue to see increased demands for city services as the population increase. We did see a pretty substantial increase in our liability insurance rates and workers' comp rates. We are or have made adjustments due to increasing health premiums and health insurance utilization, and of course, inflation and the economy. But overall, I think this is a very exciting budget that continues to march towards our 2030, the 2030s, with the acknowledgement that we're going to continue growing, that more people want to call Mauldin home, and with that growth comes more opportunities and for service delivery, not just on public safety, but also in recreation and in our tourism entertainment fields as well. So with that, unless you have specific questions, I'll just stop right
All right. Do I have a motion, Mr. Matney?
Yes, Madam Chair, move we forward to full council with a recommendation of approval and ordinance to provide appropriations for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026 for ordinary and other city purposes to provide for a levy of all taxes or of taxes on all taxable property in the city of Mauldin for all city purposes, including sufficient tax for any principal and interest on outstanding indebtedness maturing in the fiscal year, to provide for the expenditure of said taxes and the other revenues coming to the city during the fiscal year, and set council compensation.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. I'll second that motion. Any further discussion or questions? I would just like to add, as always, I cannot commend staff enough for the hard work. I see mostly staff members as we're sitting here tonight, but for those of the public, they put in many, many hours and have to drill down on a lot of items in a small amount of time. So some of them have been here a long time, and it's just a natural art that they can do, Holly. And if they don't, then that same person will reel them in. So we're a very strong community, and our finance department is the best around. I know I'm biased, but once again, thank you all. Thanks to the department heads for the hard work they put in, and for this council for the hours that we put in with workshops and reviewing to make sure that we feel like that the proposed budget is the right budget to move forward into the new fiscal year. So having said that, all those in favor of forwarding the FY26 budget ordinance to full council, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, now we're back around to the second public comment. Seeing none, hearing none. Committee concerns. None for Mr. Matney nor myself. What do I have on adjournment?
So moved.
Second that motion. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned at 7:23. Next up, Mr. Matney and Economic Planning and Development.
All right, calling EPD to order. It's May 5th, 7:24. Everybody's here. First public comment period. Hearing none. What do I hear on reading and approval of minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Reports, communications from city officers. Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have a few updates, and then actually our Assistant City Administrator, uh, Mr. Greg Saxon, is going to give a couple updates as well. So to start off, let's see, on City Center Village, progress continues at City Center and Jenkins Street. And so what we're waiting on right now is Piedmont Natural Gas is currently securing the necessary permits from SCDOT to relocate a gas line crossing 276. The line was previously placed on top of the stormwater line that runs from the right side or the west to the east, east to west, depending on where you're standing. And so that line's got to move because we were trying to upsize that stormwater line. So once they do that, we'll be able to get Co-Transco and our contractor back in there to finish out the stormwater tie-ins. Additionally, Co-Transco has scheduled boring operations across Jenkins Street to help Duke make the final connection for the underground cross Jenkins Street connection to the townhomes, which will then allow them to fully remove the previously serviced poles. Once all of that's tied in, the railroad crossing at Jenkins and Murray Drive will reopen once the road work is complete. Long Branch Development has begun leasing its townhomes, with initial tenants moving in now. The development is also finalizing its portion of the Swamp Rabbit Trail, which will ultimately connect to the City Hall and East Butler Road. Meanwhile, work on the Pickle Yard by Parker Group Development is progressing steadily, so that's exciting to see. We've kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. Actually, you were covering amphitheater. Never mind. I'll skip that one. The multi-use path over at formerly known as Alston Towns, now Layton Hall, is finished and installed. The developer of Layton Hall has completed the installation of the trail segment that will become part of the green line of the Swamp Rabbit Trail. Layton Hall is the new subdivision being developed at the corner of Murray Drive and Green Street. Though the trail is open and accessible, the city is not advertising it to the public at this time. The trail will eventually connect to the line under development from CUI Car to City Center Village. And then last, I think Mr. Deerhog mentioned a few of these in his report, but I also wanted to kind of say thank you and how exciting it is to see more businesses opening in Mauldin. We had 6 new businesses opened their doors in April. This includes a Korean restaurant. It's entrusted in-home care services, hallway plumbing, McDonald Enterprise, Minds Matter Counseling, and Secure Hands Home Care. So welcome to them. This does not include several new salon, booth renters, home businesses, and food trucks that were also new in April. So business is booming, just like the pollen falling from the trees. We are growing, growing, growing.
And are we going to hear from Greg now?
We are. If you have no questions for me, sir.
Well, we may come back to you with questions, but we want to hear about somebody important.
Oh, okay. No problem. Go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Come on, Greg.
My first opportunity to be amongst you, so this is exciting. So tonight, I'm just here to talk about 2 things, the Culture Center, and then I go into our branding initiative that we've been working on for the city. We just had Blues and Jazz was a couple of weeks ago. It was a great event, my first event, and wanted to just take a moment to say I was just very, very impressed about how the staff came together, knowing that we lost our event coordinator. And then also just leading up to the event, how the public works, public safety, and the rec come together just to make that event what it was. We had some hiccups, but we got through it. A part of the Blues and Jazz Festival, we also did the unveiling of our sculpture for the public art trail. And you'll be hearing more information about the new process or that's coming up for the new piece that will be offered and how that process works. If you haven't seen it already, Bodyguard is now in session. It ends on Sunday. It is the last show of our season. Then we go right into the camp for the kids, but would encourage that if you haven't seen it, come out and see. I think you'll be amazed just by the talent and some of the songs that they're singing. So it's really great. Also, talking about the stage cover for just a moment. If you take an opportunity, you'll see that it's coming along aggressively. It's looking really, really good. We're hoping that it stays on track. And then by our first Amped Up Friday, which is May 23rd, we will have a small ribbon cutting for that just as well to celebrate the new stage cover. But again, it's coming along really, really, really well. A couple of dates to keep in mind. On the 17th of May, there is the Bridgeway 5K. So if you want to walk, run, jump, holler, scream, whatever you want to do, come on out. You can still register and pick up your stuff, and we hope that you just don't pass out on the way. um, Memorial Day is coming up just as well. That is set for that Monday. On Memorial Day, we will have a ceremony here at 11 o'clock. We will also have Summer Moon that will sponsor coffee for us for that event just as well. So just spread the word on that just as well. On May 19th, our new events coordinator will be starting with us, Macy Ward. And so we've already rolled out a new plan or a plan for her because she's going to have to be hitting the ground aggressively because we've got a lot of events that's already in place. The great thing about it is that the staff at the Culture Center have already done most of all the legwork to make sure all the vendors, all the bands, everything is in place, but it'll just more be of a learning experience and how things flow here. And again, with her background and being at her previous place, she's well aware of how to run events, but it's just going to be a new location, new events for us. And we just think she's going to be really, really great fitting in to the culture here at the city of Mauldin. Please keep in mind that in June, we also have Juneteenth that's coming up. We did have some facility updates that's happened to the structure, which Mr. Fleeman will speak when he comes up about the floors, but a lot of great things are happening at the Culture Center. You also have in your packet just as well some of the events that are coming up, so please just take note on that. One cool thing that I am excited about is the fact that there's coming a dance class to the Cultural Center. It will be every Monday from 6:30 to for about an hour. On May 19th, there's also an initial kickoff. So if you're interested in dancing, it's free. You can come and see what the dance classes are going to be about. Then in June and July on a Saturday will be from 7 to 10, their dance off. So for 3 hours, you get to dance. So I think that's exciting. Outside of that, um, Culture Center is doing great. We've got a lot of programming that's coming up, and we just want, things to keep rolling the way that it is because it's doing a lot of great things. And I'll take any questions before I jump into the branding that you may have.
Any questions for our administrator or assistant city administrator? Mr. Kraling?
Just real quick, because I know my wife's going to ask this, what type of dancing?
Ballroom, shag, salsa.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions? And if it's any motivation to get y'all to go to the bodyguard, I will go ahead and tell you right now, I am not playing the Whitney Houston part. So feel free to go ahead. And you've got one more thing.
I do, absolutely. So back in January, we released an RFP for a branding marketing initiative for the city. And so we received close to 11 bids that came in, and Flock and Rally, a firm located out of Columbia, South Carolina, was chosen to lead in this initiative for the city. Back in April, on the 25th, I believe, we had our first initial kickoff discovery call. It's a really good conversation. Lauren Carter, our communications manager, has joined me with them and helped this process go along. This month, on the 20th, they will actually be here for about 4 hours doing some more discovery questions and learning more about the city. And so this process should take about 5 months. So it was initially supposed to start in March once the bid was awarded, but we are a little bit behind. So it'll be August by the time we actually get a final viewing of what that new branding will look like for the city. However, we will be tracking along with them. So it won't be like we just tell them to run off, but they'll be checking in and we'll be having some say-sos and kind of like how it's shaping, how it's moving. They will also have a meeting with the city council to get your way in on some things and your thoughts on the city and what you might want to see in that process. One of the cool things that we, Lauren and I both was excited about was just the fact that, Mauldin finally now gets to have its real identity, and find its place. And so we are very excited to see how this is all going to shape, how it's going to, move. And if you remember, even when it came to the strategic plan about the vision statement, one of the things that was stated was, hopefully this branding would help push out what that vision statement would be for the city as far as the language is concerned. So hopefully that will collide and be birthed, and then we'll be, having a new look for the city just as well. So I'll take any
Any
questions if you
additional
have.
questions on that? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that runs us through item 4. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none. Committee concerns. What do we hear on adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned at 7:35.
Took you so long. Took you so
They're laughing. Are we on public safety? Okay. Join me, please. I was like, y'all confusing me. You're fine. Just trying to see if I've got these. All right, it is 7:36 and we'll call the fourth committee, Public Safety, to order. All members of committee are present, as well as our police chief, Miller, Chief McCone, Fire Department, and Mr. Seth. Who? Oh, yes, yes. And of course, our city administrator, Mr. Duncan. I think you all have in your packet a note or a review from our clerk of court, administrative judge. You've had time to read, so she'll be back with us for our council meeting in a couple of weeks. All right, next on the agenda is public comment. Have any, Mr. Pulley, you gonna have some public comment? You out? Didn't mean to run you off. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to reading and approval of the minutes from April the 7th. What's committee's pleasure?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from April the 7th, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Reports from our city officers. Chief McCone, you up first this month. It was National Firefighter.
Appreciation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair,
Appreciate it.
members of the committee. We'll go through some few updates. For our budget process, we're right on track where we need to be. We've had a total calls was 1,883 calls for the year. For training hours, as of from January to current, we've done 5,597 hours of training. And on that also, I want to thank Seth and them for allowing us to do number 4 Murray Drive. We actually got to go in and do a lot of ventilation, and we acted like it was a real deal on that, and our staff really enjoyed that. Got a lot of good training out of that. Thank y'all. And for May and June, we'll be doing 8 different scenarios with BASF, doing confined space and high angle stuff, different things like that. So that's coming up and working with their staff also. And he's got, we'll give him an update on the siding of Station 1 on Miller Road. Give y'all some current pictures.
If you haven't
That's the
ridden
old-
by, yeah, it's I cut through to Sam's. I was like, wow.
That's the original siding when it was built in 1983. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
This is actually a hardy siding too. It's a concrete type, so it's got a 30-year warranty on it. Actually got all that done today.
Looks good.
I don't know who was responsible for the color, but it's spot on. I love it.
Staff.
So good. Good job.
No, that's it. I wasn't sure if that was, I thought there was another one on the side over there because it had I thought it had another one on there, but that's all right. Okay, it must have been it then. But that will conclude my report, unless y'all have any questions. Oh, by the state appropriations, that's how that's being paid for. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, Dale. Seth.
It's in your
I was-
report, Mr. Administrator, if they had read it. But thank you.
Some
for
people
that
do, some
update.
people don't.
Well, on the, I'd just like to add on 4 Murray Drive, I think I've mentioned it to you before, but, for the insight to even think to use that property prior to Mr. Fleeman having his fun with it, is so appreciated because I've just heard nothing but great things about the training that went on, in that house before it was torn down. So, and I think it might have even been a kind of a little morale booster. I think our
There's a
staff
little
are-
competition between shifts.
Yes, well, imagine that. So, so thanks for that.
Yep.
Any questions for Chief? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
As we stated, Mr. Rado's out tonight, so we have Chief Miller.
Evening, Ms. King, Mr. Raylan, Mr. Allgood. I'll start off on first with Corporal Sepchek. We were in the past a part of RAD, which is Rape Aggression Defense class. We had an instructor where they'd come in and teach people from the community. We sent her, I'm fixing to send Lieutenant Ross also to the class. And on June 9th, 16th, and 23rd at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m., she'll be putting on the RAD class. All the classes are full, and this class is for ladies from age 14 and older. And she, like I say, she was recently certified in RAD and will teach women how to defend themselves from sexual assault. Like I say, we had done that in the past, and it just sort of went away, so we found an opportunity to bring that back. The youth camp, we're bringing that back this year. The boys will be June the 2nd through the 13th. The girls will be June the 16th through the 27th. In the past, we've had very few sign up, had to combine the two groups. The max we set this year for the boys and the girls is 20. We got 19 boys signed up and 15 girls signed up. That's got a lot to do with the SROs. They're having the principals push that out every day. And so the kids are lining up to come. Friday, we had a group of officers that played in the Crime Stoppers golf tournament. They won first place. Today, we had a group of them that played in the chamber golf tournament and they won second place. And since its inception in July, the traffic team has done an amazing job keeping the citizens safe on our roadways. They've worked 275 collisions, issued 403 citations, issued 1,187 warnings, and made 76 arrests, with quite a few of those being DUIs. And they've also worked multiple assignments answering complaints about speed. I had asked for the quarter, but she gave me the four. Yeah. So anyway, from January to April, the end of April, the police department has answered a total of 10,776 calls for service. They've done 1,161 property checks. They've written 986 written citations. I'm sorry, 986 citations, 2,922 warnings, 35 DUIs, and arrested 356 adults and 34 juveniles. A total of 1,102 incidents were written and 318 accident reports were generated. With the traffic team catching a majority of the accidents, they have been good at when the road is overwhelmed with calls, been helping out. Also, I forgot to say my budget. It's good. So we're hanging in there. So, no, it's we're
Going
good.
into the home stretch here.
So But that's all I got. If you got any questions.
Great report. Any questions?
For me.
Good job. You might want to stay close by, or is Mr. Duncan taking that? Oh, okay. All right. All right. All right, so we have no unfinished business. New business, we have up for us just for discussion only. So there will be no action taken tonight. So thank you, Mr. Saxon.
Good evening again, committee. So, Mr. Duncan had asked me to look into this project. So the South Carolina Opioid Recovery Fund is a state administered program that's established to address the opioid crisis through the strategic allocation of settlement funds from opioid-related litigation. So through the state, several cities, counties, towns get allocated some funds to help direct towards education or using those funds to educate and prevent opioid crisis, right? So the city of Mauldin right now has about $600,000 sitting there. 221,000 of those dollars are going to be reallocated if we don't use those funds by the end of, or actually, let me back that up. If we don't request those funds by the end of December 31st. And so Ms. Gina McAtee and I have collaborated and tried to figure out what the best way or how we could use those funds so that way the city doesn't lose that kind of money and it goes back. And so with that work, we went to some agencies, have some phone calls, and we wanted to make sure that whatever program that we came up with, or if we decided to or allocate those funds to another agency that could help Mauldin would be make sure that the citizens in our area would be affected by those funds. And after talking with different agencies, we weren't too sure that we wanted to go in that direction. We sat down with Chief Miller, Chief McComb, and Mr. Hall, Don Hall, and it was like, hey, we have this money. What are your thoughts? So we did an in-house collaboration. And so out of that, we've kind of pitched and kind of created an opportunity here for the city of Mauldin that will allow us to maybe create a position here using an officer or civilian person, if you would, that will be responsible for coming up with creative ways to inform, educate, and to help prevent opioid crisis within the city of Mauldin by doing community events, maybe going to different churches, reaching out to some of the local entities here that deal with people who have, families who have overdoses, just those kind of things. And so next month, we'll actually come to you looking for permission to move forward with that. But we did not want to lose that kind of money and have it reallocated somewhere else. The great thing about this is the fact that this is given to us for the next 10 years. So this is not a one-time situation. This is not a second-time situation. It's for the next 10 years, we'll continue to get this kind of money. And I think we want to be good stewards over that money and not just let it go back into a pot for somebody else to use.
Questions? Mr. Allgood?
Thank you. So it says since 2022, is it that we had the money, we just chose not to do anything with it?
I guess so, but in my caveat, I wasn't here yet.
There is that.
So I'll piggyback on that. So yeah, we didn't really have a plan for it because initially a lot of communities thought, oh, we'll buy Narcan with it and things like that, but we get Narcan virtually free as it is now. So we really struggled, and then just other priorities took precedent. But when we had received an email earlier this year that we were in danger of losing this funding if we don't request it by the end of the year, that's when I asked Mr. Saxon and Ms. McAtee to really take a look at it and see what can we do. Find someone else who's already doing something, and let's see if their program, if successful, could be replicated here. And in previous conversations, we really didn't have any great ideas. But City of Casey has put together a program, and so a lot of what we're looking at is being modeled after City of Casey, except they actually use these funds to buy a therapy pony. And I said, no horses unless they go to live with Greg. So we probably won't be doing the pony, but it will pay.
Go wants a pony, right?
Well, that answers my second question because I didn't understand why it said equine assisted outreach program.
So no, we won't be doing equine assisted. But one of the things that we are looking at with this is that the key duties would be data collection, analysis, public education, community outreach, and implementation. Yeah, that should have been, that last part would not be correct, the equine part. And so the uh, the goal here with this program that we're trying to achieve is really in consultation with some other uh, nonprofits that are in this space already, is that you know we there are areas of our community that could use additional training and outreach. Not just, think if you think of it from a sports medicine standpoint, our athletes who get hurt at Mauldin High School, Mauldin Middle, are prescribed sometimes opioids to deal with injuries and things like that. Well, this position can go and help educate in the schools about those addictions. Our recreation programming that we have, our coaches can then be educated and informed, as well as our athletes about those dangers. And so we see it as a very versatile position. Not sure whether it's going to be housed in fire or police just yet, but we see it being a key component to address something that continues to plague our community, as well as many communities, or be a constant threat. We do still have regular uses of Narcan, and the chief can speak more to that implementation. But now that we've got a program that we can model, except for the horse, we feel like we've got a good direction on where to go with this.
And I also would like to add that a part of this process is that we have 4 opportunities to request the money. But then after we request it and it's allocated, we have at least a year to spend it, and whatever we don't spend in a year, it can carry over to the next year.
That's my question coming up.
And then, but every year we have to apply for the next set of funds. And so the deadline for the first was May 2nd. So I went to Seth and said, hey, I want to make sure we do this right. I want to make sure that the budget speaks to what we want to do in that process. And so we want to go for it for July when it opens up again. And then it'll be allocated to us in October, seeing that it's awarded to us. And then from that point, we have a year to spend it.
We can carry over, so you don't have to
That's
spend
correct.
the entire allocation.
That's correct. But we just have to request
Gotcha.
all of it in July. But then we have a year and some change to use it. Mhm.
And what's interesting about this too is that it not only pays for the personnel and their consumables, but also equipment that we may want to purchase, a vehicle. Casey bought a vehicle with it. There are training, travel, things like that. So there's a lot that we can utilize, a very wide array of potential expenditures that we can use these funds for, which is exciting.
How long has Casey been implementing their program?
I'm not sure. It's been a while, but at least 3 years.
Okay. So my last question would be, knowing that we've been awarded 607,000. You mentioned that we expect to see sustained funds for over the next 10 years. Is that based on what Casey was able to do in 3 years with their funding, and therefore we don't think there's going to be a need for any exterior funding outside of this fund?
Say that one more time.
Do we need more funding than this?
I don't think we will.
So it'll all be
Because
self-sustaining funding?
Right, because so what you have to look at is whenever the state gets the money and they have it in one pool, they start allocating. So along with what we've got for the 600, they're going to put more money, and we got it in. So each time or each year they do it, it's a different pot of money that keeps adding to the pot that we already have.
Right.
So the beauty of it and the risk of it, right? The beauty of it is it's self-sustaining. The risk is that they can always pull it at some point. That money could be reallocated. They could change the way that
Not
they do.
really, because this is part of a class action settlement with the states and the opioid drug makers. So this is a dedicated, it's 10, 12, 13 more years worth of funding that comes through this settlement. So we will, future Seth, future Greg, future council will have to at some point say, do we continue this now that all the opioid settlement funds are gone? But that'll give us not more than enough runway to say, hey, has this been impactful? Is it not? Do we continue it? Do we modify it to some degree? But in and of itself, within that time period, while we continue to get our annual allocation, it should be self-sufficient. There's
Okay.
only a few little things that we could think of that we may want, or we have to spend city dollars doing. So we can purchase a vehicle, we can outfit it to some degree, but we can't put the lights on it, but we can pay for the radio. So there's certain things where we might have to,
And they provide to us a list of non-allowables, so you can't do bonuses and you can't do certain things, and they give you a whole list of what you cannot do with the money.
Okay. I mean, the money is great. I think it's just a matter of when you're planning, figuring out what are those extra things that aren't covered based on the rules.
operationally, it should cover just about everything.
Yeah.
It's just really kind of these extra things. So
Extra.
a vehicle is the bulk of that cost is in the vehicle itself, and then the upfits. I mean, if we want to add lights to it, that would be a city cost, but that's an if. I don't know if it's necessary, it necessitates that because it wouldn't be a certified. If we did it in police, it wouldn't necessarily have to be a certified officer. So therefore, you wouldn't give a civilian a
Lights,
car with
yeah.
lights.
Yep. Okay. That's all I've got.
I like it. Thank you.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to hearing more about it.
Yep. Full
Coming up.
program for y'all next month. Yep.
Yep, awesome. All right, public comment. Seeing none. Committee concerns? Hearing none. Adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned at 7:56. Recreation.
Recreation.
This is it, right? This last one?
No.
Until.
Mm-mm. Nope, still got public works.
What? Oh, shit.
All right, we're gonna call the Recreation Committee meeting to order. It is 7:57. In attendance is Mark Steenbeck as well as myself. Mr. Michael Reynolds is absent from today's meeting. And first up is public comment. Do we have any online or in chambers? See none. Reading and approval of the minutes.
So moved.
I will second that. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. We do not have Mr. Cumberlander here, but we have someone better. Will, if you wouldn't mind making your way up and give us the update.
Good evening, committee. Update for the month. Pretty much we started the master plan. This past month, in April, we had an initial meeting with Bolton and Mink, and today I met with Mark Simeon to go around all the facilities and the parks and the trails just to kind of get an inventory on everything, what we have already. Whether it's good or bad or whether it needs work or not, I just wanted to make sure they had a layout of everything. Tomorrow we'll meet with Tom O'Rourke that has probably about 30 plus years in recreation as well. And we'll sit down with him and also Gregory in the morning, and then we'll kind of tour the facilities again to get a background so he can have a feeling of what's going on around here as well. We have May going into June, there's a lot of events going on in recreation. The Sports Center participated as far as having a table out at the golf tournament, the Chamber Golf Tournament Day. We didn't have anybody play, but we did have a table. Just trying to go down the list. May 10th, so this weekend we'll have the cleanup day. Annual cleanup day. We right now have about 100, 120 volunteers signed up. I'm looking for that number to probably about 150 went-ins because everybody picked the last minute to sign up for that type of event as well. Flag football playoffs, baseball playoffs have started. They're going. The flag football championship is May 14th. And the baseball and softball championships are May 15th. Once again, the recreation department will be supporting the city and the 5K, the Bridgeway 5K on May 17th. We'll have a table set up and we'll actually have a team that kind of running in the event as well. I have to skip stuff and go back. Summer camp. So we have 87 campers for summer camp.
And we start at summer camp on May 27th, right after Memorial Day. We'll go all the way to August 8th, right when they go back to school. We have the sports center is collaborating with the recreation department as a whole is having kind of like an internal competition. So we have right now 2 events that we're trying to run. It's a pickleball, Fun for All pickleball tournament. It is let's make sure I got the right date, May 24th. That'll be at the Sports Center. There is a fee to sign up, but it should be a pretty good event trying to get those people in here to play pickleball at Sports Center. Then we'll have a basketball hoops challenge on June 21st, which has a combination of a 3-on-3 competition, a 3-point shootout, free throw shootout, one more, and a skills competition as well. And that'll be at Sports Center as well. May 27th through the 31st, we will host the Upstate Baseball and Softball Classic at Sunset Park, and that includes the surrounding recreation municipalities of Greer, Simpsonville, Fountain Inn, and ourselves as well. And that's about a week long, and we play softball. We have a softball and baseball tournament, double elimination, to see who wins the trophy. And NB6 Foundation has helped sponsoring that event as well, so it's getting a little bit more publicity for it. In June, we will have All-Stars. So June 7th, Flag Football All-Stars, we have our adult men's softball, wheelchair softball team. They will have a tournament as well at Sunset. And the Braves Country softball and baseball tournament as well on June 7th as well. I think that's everything. I think I cleaned up everything that we have going on at this point in time.
Any questions? All right, I'm going to put it out there. I'm only one person, but who wants to join me for the 3-on-3? Because I saw you having over 40.
Yes,
That'd
yes,
be
yes.
my category.
Yeah, I know. I'll be somewhere in it myself.
Put it out there if anyone wants to join me. Yeah.
Any takers?
I don't know if that's an offense to me or what it is.
I'm not really a basketball guy, but if I was any good, I'd be with you.
I got one more thing to add, though. Fall sports registration will begin June 1st, and for the whole month of June, that includes tackle football, soccer, fall baseball, softball, and cheer as well.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we have no unfinished business. There is no new business. This is second opportunity for public comment. Do we have any? Hearing none. Any committee concerns? Hearing none. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Move we adjourn.
Second. Any discussion? No. All in favors say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Up next is Public Works.
Will
It is what, 8:03, call to order the Public Works Committee meeting for May the 5th. I have here Ms. Carol King, and Mr. Reynolds is not here today. First, public comment. We have public comment today? All right. What do I hear on reading and approval of minutes?
Motion to approve as submitted.
Second. Any discussion? Discussion? Yeah, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Move on to reports or communications from city officers. Mr. Fleeman.
What's that? It's actually much longer. If you remember, our interview process started about this time 6 years ago, and I went through a number of interviews and everything. And then after I was subsequently hired, I still had to work 90 days at Greenville Water. Right. So I started in October, but really the hiring process. So that's why it feels like forever. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On your agendas, there was obviously the Duke easements was an action item or a report. However, at this time, we are still dealing with some contractual language in the easements, and we are not ready at this point to bring it before committee. It boils down to they have to move their telephone poles. They're not going to go into the existing right of way. They want to come onto city property. There are some conflicts. We've walked with them in the field. They're having to change their maps and language based on what we noted in the field. What boils down to is we don't want to move any of our infrastructure, any of our monuments, and we don't want their work to obstruct any of these city monuments or infrastructure. So potentially you'll see it next month. But I couldn't just stand here and do nothing. So instead, I decided to come up with a few things I could kind of tell you that Public Works is doing, just to let you know. They mentioned earlier in the meeting, we tore down that house on Murray. We got that knocked out and cleared out in just a couple days. It was, it was a great opportunity for the firefighters. It's a great opportunity to acquire the property for the city. The demolition and removal went off without a hitch.
Yeah, fun.
See, as much as I wanted to do the work in-house, and my guys are actually very upset about this, is I contracted it out. Part of my responsibility as a public works director is to evaluate, obviously, the costs and the risks of making these decisions. And well, certainly my guys could tear it down. The likelihood that we would damage city equipment or themselves just posed more of a risk than it cost me to have someone else do the work. And, they were able to work around with the schedule with the firefighters to come in, work over the weekend, knock it out in 2 days, and just be gone. So some of my employees are still kind of upset about that, but, you pay me to make these tough decisions.
Gotcha.
See, we recently finished up the Cultural Center floor project. It was in the capital budget this year. It was budgeted for $100,000 for repairs. We had noticed over time that there were soft spots in the auditorium. The floor kind of sagged in places. I brought in a structural engineer. We went underneath there. It's an old building. It's good wood, but it's old wood. And so there were some deficiencies that we noted. We brought the contractors in. They had to clear out a lot of that area underneath the floor. We had to pour concrete pillars. Ultimately, 37 floor jacks were installed to support the joists. The joists themselves, some of them were rotten based on water damage. Part of the project was they replaced some of the joists. Every other joist, we sistered a new joist to it. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's basically taking another piece of wood, nail it to it, and now instead of having one joist, you got two. And then during it, we also noted that there was an area near the guitar room, the music room, where the floor was really uneven. We went down there, and there was another instance where the floor had come apart at the joist. They worked with us to throw that work in there and just be like, hey, it's good. We brought the project in excess of $20,000 under budget. And that floor will outlast the building. Let's see, blues and jazz. It went off without a hitch. Public Works, we did, just to let you know, the contractor pulled off on Wednesday, and they had the 4 holes out there where they dug 4 feet by 8 feet by 5 feet deep. And at the last second said, oh, we're not going to pour concrete, we're going to leave. And so it left us scrambling. As Greg mentioned, all of us, the Cultural Center, Public Works, Administration, we worked well together. And if you were out there, you couldn't even tell. We went out and used road plates and covered the front holes in front of the stage. We used decorative barricades and signage to cover those. Behind the stage, we filled the the excavations with surge stone, and just to make it like blended in, we ended up mulching everything around the stage so you couldn't even tell. So yeah, we got that done in about a day, but it ultimately, it really did make a difference visually, and the whole festival went off. It was a good time. Um, if you were out there today, we started some more work on the cultural center grounds. Um, you may or may not know, as part of the walking trail on the backside over by Murray, there was an old wooden walking bridge. We evaluated it last year when we had slip trip or fall in a different spot on the grounds. And while it didn't pose an immediate risk, it was starting to deteriorate. So we schedule it. We're out there now. Ultimately, what we're doing is we've already removed the wooden bridge. We're putting in 24-inch HDP piping. We're gonna run block walls, header walls on either side of the pipe, backfill with stone, and then pave brand new concrete. So instead of having a wooden bridge, you're going to still have a concrete trail throughout, and the existing stream is just going to be piped. So visually, it will actually look better, and it'll basically mitigate any potential slip, trip, or fall incident in the future. Lastly, for the Oak Park Stormwater Project, I know it's been a while since we talked about it. We've submitted everything through all the federal agencies. Believe it or not, they've actually been very efficient in this time of turmoil for them. The Army Corps of Engineers came back and determined that our project would be considered by them to be maintenance, because the drainage is existing. And while we're daylighting a stream and then redoing pipe, we're not moving it. We're just making it better. And the good news in that decision is that makes us free from having to apply for and obtain a 401 and a 404 Army Corps of Engineers permit, which requires significant time and expense. So we've passed through those. The last is FEMA. So we had to submit a CLOMAR, which is conditional letter of map revision. So basically, FEMA made flood maps 50 years ago, right? And things change, and the flood zones will change, but they only update them periodically. And so, as part of this project, we were like, "Hey, your flood map's wrong. It needs to be changed." So we have to go through this process. Luckily, our engineer knows some people in FEMA, and we've basically got a much quicker turnaround. Most people wait like a year. We've done it in about 60 days. So we should have the CLOMAR, map revision done here. And ultimately what that means is that we have the potential to go out to bid on this project within the next 60 days, so that we can still meet every threshold and every deadline and be done by the end of 2026.
Questions, concerns? That's right. Let's just see Frank there. I'm used to. Yes. Earlier today, they were talking about the floodwaters in that area. I don't think I've actually been out.
So in that neighborhood, it's 50 plus years old. There's no stormwater. There's essentially 3 points where there's a catch basin, and 2 of them pipe behind the houses on Wood Green to the ditch that goes from Neely Ferry all the way down to Adams Mill. Where that washout was in Adams Mill. They all tie into that ditch. The other one basically dumps off into the backyards of the Brookses. There's no curbing, there's no ditches. It's just the way that the neighborhood was designed.
Yeah, have we gone through though? I know we've done so much work cleaning things out. Have we done that in that area yet?
I mean, as far as it goes, we can drive through. It's a good neighborhood. It's very clean. It's very, but it lacks a stormwater infrastructure. It lacks any stormwater infrastructure.
Okay.
It's just devoid.
Okay, well, I'll drive through there this weekend. We usually have to get you when it's raining.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and then we can talk about this at some other time, but whatever we do in there, like whatever we do, is going to affect,
Something downstream.
yes, both of them significantly. And it's just, when you start talking about constructing stormwater infrastructure where there is none, you can't start up top. You have to start on the bottom and you work your way back up to the top.
That's actually one of the ones that's not on my radar, so I hadn't actually gone over there. You try and catch places when it's raining.
And then they did make mention about the stormwater pond of the church that's in front of their property. The county did issue them a notice of violation for their pond being deficient. I went out, Seth asked me to go out and take a look at it and help the pastor come up with some ideas. It was very unfortunate for him because the DOT takes all of its drainage from Neely Ferry Road and dumps it into the pond at the church. And so he's like liable for making repairs because of the DOT's drainage. Yeah. But he has made those repairs. And the pond functions, but it still just dumps off into a dry ditch in people's backyards.
There's no other questions. Thank you. All right. Unfinished business, there is none. New business, there is none. Public comments. Any public comments? Please.
John Rainey, 103 Wood Green Drive. Dealing with what he was talking about the infrastructure and everything else, the way the Meadowwood subdivision is developed. That's true, but part of the problem is the street past Meadowwood Drive, if you're headed south, the houses that were built there are sloped, the backyards are sloped downhill. So all the water coming out of that subdivision is coming into the back of the yards of everybody in Meadowwood. And that has nothing to do with Meadowwood. That has to do with the way that subdivision up there is sloped. And with the other, what Reverend Neely was talking about, the overflow of that particular pond, that's coming in the back there. And if DOT has dropped in theirs into that, that's creating a bigger problem for us out there.
Well, like I said, I will try and take a look. Next storm, when I'm free from work, I'll try and make it up there. Hard to tell unless you're actually seeing the rain. How things flow.
I know one of my neighbors in back. She just spent, I think, thousands of dollars trying to curtail the water that's coming into her backyard, but they're in the subdivision behind us. But the thing of it is, it's the way the community is sloped. It's downhill, and when water is moving at a fast pace coming downhill, it's going where it wants to go. And part of one of the other problems is a few years ago when they resurfaced the road in Meadowwood, we had a lip at every driveway about that much. But when they came in and resurfaced the road, they didn't dig it out. They just added on top, which now you put the road up above the driveway, which now turns the water into everybody's yard and everything. If you look on Meadowwood, when they raise the road up and everything, where the road is over the driveway, doesn't matter which side of the road you're on. Water, when it's coming downhill, it goes off into people's houses and their garage and everything else. We've been fighting with this for the longest, and that's part of the problem. The water is coming off of New Neely Ferry Road. Water is coming out of the subdivision just past us on the south side of us. Then we got the water that's coming out of driveways and everywhere. Yeah.
Well, I promise to take a look if I can see any things that we can do. We can do. Okay, if you leave me, stick around. Thank you. All right, committee concerns. None. None. What do you hear on adjournment?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, or any discussion? All those in favor? say
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. Let's think of the file. We should have planned that one out, shouldn't we?
I'll call to order the special call city council meeting on Monday, May the 5th, 2025 at approximately 8:20 p.m. Let the record reflect all members of council are here with the exception of Mr. Reynolds. Believe our welcome invocation, Mr. Allgood.
Thank you, Mayor. If you so choose, you may bow with us. Lord, you are the beginning and the end, the author of time and history. We thank you for the city of Mauldin for the 56 years of growth, challenge, and community. Thank you for those who came before us and helped lay a foundation of service and care. Give us wisdom to lead with clarity, courage to do what is right, and compassion to see each person as you see them. Unite us in mind and heart. Help us to listen well, speak kindly, and act justly. Teach us to love as you love and to serve with joy and humility. In your name we pray. Amen. Let's now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Allgood. Okay, the only item on our agenda is under new business, and that would be for this council to consider a executive session, contractual economic development. Mr. Madney?
Thank you, Mayor. Move we enter executive session to consider negotiations incident of proposed contractual arrangements regarding Bridgeway Station under 30-40-78-2.
I have a motion, Mr. Madney. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Steenbuck. Any discussion? Hearing all those in favor of the executive session for, as stated by Mr. Madden, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. We will move upstairs for the executive session at about 8:24. Executive session. We are returning from executive session at approximately 9:14 p.m. Would someone like to report out?
Thank you, Mayor. Coming out of executive session, the decisions were made and the votes were taken.
Thank you, Mr. Madney. Next item, possible action on items discussed in executive session. Any action? Seeing and hearing none. Council request. Seeing and hearing none, council adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion, multiple seconds. Any opposed? Hearing none, we stand adjourned. 9:15.